This video is about the latest U.S. housing starts and new home sales, as well as lumber price data. Hello again, everyone. Kata Kosman, publisher of Madison's Lumber Reporter. Here we are almost at the end of June, and today the U.S. new home sales data came out and it's up. House prices are down, but home sales are up. Last week, the housing starts came out. It's up a lot compared to April, and it's up compared to May of 2022, 1 year ago. Permits are up, and single-family starts are up, and single-family permits are up. So the slowdown that we had intentionally created by the increase in the lending rates, trying to cool down that very hot market that happened with the changes to society with COVID and people either moving or remodeling or putting additions on their home, heating up the housing market, which of course brought a lot of demand for lumber, seems to be now leveling off. And as I had indicated last year when all of that started happening with the mortgage rates, that there was quite a bit of momentum of demand still. If you look at the demographics and if you look at the home ownership rates, there was even in the second half of last year, 2022, still quite a bit of folks coming into the housing market. And that's going to last for a while. Due to a couple of reasons. One, the age of the generation coming into a first-time home buyer age, and the very slow housing market and underbuilding, not enough homes being built for the population for those 10 years following the housing bubble crash of 2006. So now when we go to the graphs, which I'm going to do right now, I have made a little bit of a change to how I used to do it, where I would show the three benchmark softwood lumber dimension prices, your Western spruce, Eastern spruce, and Southern pine on the east side, 2x4s. These are all used in the standard Canadian and US home construction and are sold in the highest volume. So we call it the benchmark. So now, because recently I created the Madison's Lumber Price Index, which is modeled after the new lumber futures. The new lumber futures, taking over from the previous lumber futures that had been going on since the 1960s and was started about 1 year ago. And since May, the old lumber futures has been retired. So for a little bit of a while, they were both on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, but now it's just the new one. So what I did was the same species mix that is in this new lumber futures, which is Western spruce, Eastern spruce, hemp fir, and Douglas fir. And what I did was I weighted those prices based on the ratio of manufacturing. So by far and away, Western spruce is the greatest, followed by Eastern spruce, and then Douglas fir and the hemp fir inland. And so this index now, I started a couple of months ago, but I was able to backdate it. I can backdate it all the way to 1952 because we have the data here at Madison's. That's when Madison's started. And then every week I update it. The Friday price. So real quick, let's just look at the index before I show you the housing. Here is 2019 to 2023, the dark purple line looking a bit flat along the bottom there. Comparable to 2019 was also quite flat, and in the intervening 3 years, as I said, that enormous volatility that we never had before, really don't expect to have again. But of course, things are unpredictable. And so those four dimension lumber items, the Western spruce is weighted at 62%, Eastern spruce is 27% weighted, and then the Douglas fir and hemp fir are very small, 7% and 2% respectively. Here is the actual index amount. It's US $442 per thousand board feet this week compared to $420 last week, and compared to $382 a month ago, but compared to $653 a year ago, and compared to $975 2 years ago. So when you see that change, we've never had that before, where the amount of the change in the lumber price is higher than the actual price of the lumber right now. That's what I mean when I say really don't expect to see this kind of volatility come back into the market, especially now that the changes to society have occurred, the adjustments to industry, transportation, supply chain, all of those things are sort of back on track compared to recently. So my graphs now of the housing, instead of showing those three lines for individually Western spruce, Eastern spruce, and Southern pine, show the index against the housing starts or the permits or the prices or the new home sales. So that's why it looks a little bit different. I think it's a much more concise representation and lets people know across the continent what's happening with prices instead of having to measure these different regions' price changes against each other. So let's look at some graphs and then I'll come back and explain a little bit more. And then here are the actual housing starts in comparison to the index. And I use specifically single family housing because it is the largest share of the market and it's the construction method which uses the most wood. And so here we have single family housing starts and permits. And housing starts for single family were up 19% to 997,000 units compared to April when it was 841,000. And permits were 897,000, which is almost 5% above April's 856,000. And we do very much like to see what the permits are here at Madison's because that's an indication of future activity. So when May permits are up, usually a permit is submitted 2 months before the construction starts, which means that July starts should also be up. And that data has played out over the past couple of years. And so there's no reason to expect why that would be different going forward. The blue line is the index, as you can see, ticking up now, as I was just showing you, and the corresponding housing also ticking up. And this is the latest new home sales data, another important indicator for us here at Madison's, just like housing permits. Sales of new homes indicates potential increase in home construction activity. And so what we have after moderating for about a year since lending rates started rising, sales of new homes in the U.S. jumped sharply in May at 763,000 units, which is up more than 12% from April's 680,000 and is a 20% increase compared to May of 2022 when it was 636,000 units. So this year is higher than last year. And last year, the slowdown in home sales and then in construction didn't start until after July and August when lending rates started to increase. So that's quite bullish that so far this year, housing sales, new home sales, are actually higher than they were last year at a time when the market was considered hot enough for the interest rates to rise. So now my opinion is that this is not just a 1 month blip of an increase. This is not just a short run on new home buying, the amount of construction, and especially on the permits. It looks like everybody reassessed the finances, saw how the past year has gone since interest rates increased, and I think really what was the plan, those who had been maybe shooting a little bit too high, who were stretched in the amount that they were trying to borrow compared to what their income or assets were, have been played out. And so the speculators, basically, right? And real people with real money who want to buy a house, build a house, or move are still able to do that. And so that doesn't mean that we're going to see 22% increases every month. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I think that this bump is the end of that, like let's just put it this way, we're past the bottom. And again, where is that going to rest? The same question with the housing as with the lumber. Is this going to keep ticking up? Is this going to have a small correction next month? Still higher than last year, still higher than January, not necessarily increasing, probably not decreasing, certainly not immediately. So check back here often. Go on my website, madisonsreport.com. We put a little bit of writing on there every week or so explaining what's happening with the lumber market, which is a very good forward indicator of what's going on with housing as the housing data comes out on a 6-week lag. But the lumber price data is per week for that week, so it's immediate. And when things change, lumber prices reflect right away. There is no lag. And here on YouTube, if you like what you see, click like so that this video will get recommended to other viewers. Click subscribe here on YouTube so you'll be notified when I make another update. And if you really are interested in more than just this very small overview, go on my website. There's a link here in the caption. Fill out the form to get a sample, and we'll send you the list of the 500 individual softwood lumber and panel commodity prices that we track every week and what those prices are for that week. And we will also send you the commentary that goes along with that, which my customers can access with their login to my dashboard, explaining why those prices have changed and what is going on with that market. And so we are now heading into what normally would be sort of starting to be a slower time of the year, where there's still construction activity going on, but most people have already ordered their wood for what they need going into the end of summer. This is not a normal year, so we really don't know if there's going to be an increase in demand for lumber, if this higher price that we've been seeing just now these past couple of weeks stays where it is or goes higher. So come back often and we'll let you know as it happens.